Warning: the following video contains explicit language, which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Are you ready? Hey everybody, it's Jeff. Well, gloomy gray day in Maine, but rain, and it's doing what I hoped it would do. It's washing away snow, well, I'm glad because now the walkway is nice and clean, and I won't have to worry about slipping on the ice. So, anyway, I don't know if anyone who watched Trump's bullshit speech here last night. I didn't, because I didn't want to be depressed watching, you know, the lies he was going to tell people at that thing. And I saw some clips this morning of it, and it ended up being exactly what I thought it would be. You know what pissed me off, though, most? It wasn't Trump so much what he was saying. I mean, I expect stupidity from his mouth, but the Democrats showed up with these stupid little signs, okay, and wet dry boards and stuff, and wrote stuff on, and I'm thinking, huh, this is the best you can do? Only one person got thrown out of the fucking out of that speech, because everybody was like, oh, you know, you're disrupting the fucking the president. Okay, I can't remember who it was, but he was escorted out. And I'm thinking, you know something, he did the right thing. Everybody else that was there, okay, should have done exactly the same thing. Created a ruckus. That way, Trump would have had to have all the Democrats thrown out of there. And how would that have looked on TV with only half the government there, the other half gone because Trump ordered them out? Okay, you know what I'm saying? How would that have looked on TV? Okay, that never would have happened, you know, in any other presidency. But under him, he can't stand the opposition. Okay, so he has them all thrown out. That's what they should have done. They should have all been standing up, screaming, hollering at him, okay, and shouting down everything he was saying, to the point where they would have had to bring in guards to have all those people escorted out. That would have been how I would have done it. That way, it would have looked odd. Okay, you know something? They did that years back. Rush Limbaugh was sitting in for, who the hell was it? Was it some other talk show? He used to come on early in the morning, and I can't remember who it was now. But he was sitting there saying some shit, and the audience was getting pissed at him and everything so bad that they went to a commercial break, and when they came back, the audience was cleared out, and he was sitting on the stage all by himself. And I'm thinking, that made him look so small, okay? His big mouth, nobody wanted to hear it, okay? And I was thinking, that's what they should have done last night. The Democrats should have raised all merry hell in that fucking room, okay, with the Republicans screaming over them, and okay, to the point where Johnson would have said, okay, all the Democrats, get them out of here. Okay, that would have really looked smart, okay, for Trump, because he'd have been standing up there talking only to the choir. Okay, nobody else would have been there to listen to his bullshit, okay? Instead of going in there with their little paddles and stuff and the signs, you know, that was so childish. I mean, that was stupid. You know, they're hoping the camera will find them. Okay, that's not the way to protest, okay? You protest that son of a bitch to the point where it drives him fucking nuts, okay? That's what you do, okay? Going there and trying to be peaceful and all that. Do you think they would be peaceful for you? Okay, you think the Republicans would care about decorum? Okay, if you if one of your people was president, okay, they look what Marjorie Taylor Greene. Remember how she was shouting at Biden? Okay, the Democrats had every right to go and do it, to do the same thing to Trump last night. Okay, because the Republicans already lowered the bar on that under Biden. So, like I said, that's what they should have done. They should have showed up there and just raised all merry hell in that fucking place, and that would have really looked good. You know, he already embarrassed the country by fighting with Zelensky, okay? Now it's time to shame him, you know, on his own turf. That's what I think they should have done. Anyway, I got a couple of videos, and the first one is from the Humanist Report, and he'll be discussing how he feels that Trump is deliberately trying to tank the economy because of what occurred after the COVID pandemic, and how much wealthier the rich got after COVID, okay? And he might be trying to set up that same scenario again by deliberately destroying the economy where COVID had done it, you know, where people just weren't buying or going anywhere. He wants to tank the economy in the same way through executive orders so he can create that same, you know, balloon to increase the wealthy people's money. So let's go to that video there, and then we'll discuss it after.
States has been taken advantage of for 40 years. The United States has been a laughingstock for years and years. That's why this gentleman is built in Taiwan instead of building here. It would have been better if he built here. If we had a president that knew what they were doing, and we had a lot of them very bad on trade.
He's imposing a 25% tariff on all imports from Mexico, Canada, an extra 10% from China. And look at the reaction on the big board today. All right. So the Dow at the moment is down 1.4%. You add that to yesterday, and you're about 2.8% off in 2 days of trading. The NASDAQ is down even more. It's about 3.6% overall in just 2 days now. Now, Trump is saying there's no room left for negotiation. This is a deal that is set. The market starting today in the red. Sharp sell-off yesterday, Dana, as I just mentioned there. Wow.
And Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says that big picture, the president's plans will turbocharge the economy and help improve the lives of everyday Americans.
Well, the madman finally did it. Donald Trump imposed tariffs on Canada and Mexico, as well as additional tariffs on China, and the markets reacted immediately to the news by plummeting, which should be grounds for impeachment by his own standards, because back in 2012, he tweeted, if the Dow drops 1,000 points in 2 days, the president should be impeached immediately. He said it, not me, so somebody in Congress should get the ball rolling on that stat. But as you saw, even Fox News couldn't really spin this because there's no way to spin something that's undeniably bad for working class people. The best that they can offer is some bullshit promise from the Treasury Secretary that one day this is going to turbocharge the economy, which is a circuitous way of saying that Americans are going to suffer a lot in the short term. And that they will, because for starters, the cost of groceries is going to go up since we import a lot of agricultural goods from both Canada and Mexico. Fruits, vegetables, meat, dairy. It's a lot. Not to mention the cost of cars, the cost of electronics, some clothing brands like Nike and Levi's, gas, plastic-based products, oils, minerals, construction materials such as lumber, metal, steel, aluminum. It's all going to go up in price, and aluminum in particular is going to affect the cost of everything from housing to soda cans. So virtually everything is going to get more expensive for this bullshit tariff stuff. But this is just the base price increase that we can expect, because we haven't even factored in the retaliatory tariffs, which will make the cost of goods go up even higher. And unfortunately for all of us, Canadian Prime Minister expectedly announced retaliatory tariffs immediately after Donald Trump's tariffs went into effect, and Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, also announced tariffs from their province, and he politely let us know that Canada, contrary to popular belief, does have us by the balls.
The United States launched a trade war against Canada, their closest partner and ally, their closest friend. At the same time, they're talking about working positively with Russia, appeasing Vladimir Putin, allying murderous dictator. Make that make sense. The U.S. tariffs came into effect in the early hours of this morning, and so did the Canadian response. Now, it's not in my habit to agree with the Wall Street Journal, but Donald, they point out that even though you're a very smart guy, this is a very dumb thing to do.
I don't start a tariff war, but we're going to win this tariff war. Right off the hop, I've directed the LCBO, we're the largest purchaser of alcohol in the world, to remove every bit of U.S. alcohol off the shelves. I know my good friend, the governor of Kentucky, he's losing his mind right now. I said, you better talk to your president. Mitch McConnell, senior senator from Kentucky, they're losing their mind. We purchased over $1 billion of alcohol, 3,600 products, 35 states. It's going to hit them. We call them the kitchen table issues. Then we're going to cancel Starlinks right away from Elon Musk. Not that $100 million makes a difference for him, but it's principle. I've directed the procurement of over $30 billion of goods, not to go to the U.S., to make sure we buy Ontario first. And if we can't find it in Ontario and we can't build it in Ontario, we go across the country. We have 51 tariff-free agreements with countries around the world. We're going to diversify our trade. If they want to try to annihilate Ontario, I will do everything, including cut off their energy, with a smile on my face.
Yeah, so we're officially entering the find out phase after fucking around. And as Trudeau pointed out, all of this is so dumb. We are needlessly punishing our own allies for no reason while simultaneously cozying up to our enemies like Vladimir Putin after he invaded another fucking country. I mean, it's unparalleled stupidity that can't even be justified by Fox News. And on the subject of Donald Trump punishing allies and rewarding enemies, I just love how the MAGA cultists enjoyed watching Donald Trump and JD Vance beat their chests and berate Zelensky as if he chose to get invaded by Russia. Yet when it comes to other world leaders like Benjamin Netanyahu, all of that bravado goes out the window. In fact, here's supposed tough guy Donald Trump pushing in the chair for Benjamin Netanyahu, a war criminal wanted by the International Criminal Court, by the way. I wonder how his cultists feel about this submissive cuck behavior. I bet that he would do the same thing to Vladimir Putin and even lick his boots if he asked him to. The fact that a single American voted for this fucking imbecile is a disgrace. It is an international embarrassment, and that shame will follow the people who voted for him around for the rest of their lives, which will gradually get worse thanks to the actions of this administration. And things will get worse, to be clear, because Canada isn't the only country imposing retaliatory tariffs, since all three of our victims are expectedly striking back.
So the Chinese retaliated, filing suit with the World Trade Organization and slapping a 15% tariff on U.S. chicken, wheat, corn, and cotton, adding a 10% tariff on other U.S. foods imported into China, like soybeans. Canada also firing back, imposing 25% tariffs on $20 billion of U.S. imports, with that number going up to $100 billion of U.S. imports under 25% tariff in 21 days. Mexico will announce Sunday what retaliation tariffs they will impose.
And you know it pains Fox News to admit that, but it's true. The cost of goods is going to increase a lot. But we still haven't even reached the ceiling yet because Donald Trump announced even more tariffs on Canada for retaliating. We started this, and then Canada responded, and Trump is basically saying, well, since you responded, we're going to respond again, which will obviously prompt another response by Canada. But he wrote this on Truth Social. Please explain to Governor Trudeau of Canada that when he puts on retaliatory tariff on the United States, our reciprocal tariff will immediately increase by a like amount. And he made this tweet while the stock market was plummeting. So sky's the limit in terms of how expensive things are going to get for all of us, because this is only the beginning of what is likely going to be a long and grueling trade war that's happening for no fucking reason. And as Dean Baker explained in A Piece for Common Dreams, this is effectively going to amount in a $3,000 sales tax per year on American consumers. Not to mention, if he actually passes the $4.5 trillion in tax cuts for the rich that he wants, taxes are going to go up for normal people by more than $1,200 on average. This is according to an estimate from the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy. But this is our fate. We're all doomed to suffer now because a bunch of dumb fuck Americans believed him when he said that he'd bring down the cost of eggs. But newsflash, that's not going to happen either. In fact, Trump's agriculture secretary, Brooke Rollins, admitted as much. And she explained that it might actually be a good idea to buy a chicken, literally to buy a chicken and get the eggs directly from the chicken.
So I'm looking at this. The cost of eggs is expected to go up 40%.
Listen, there is no short-term fix.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, I wish I could, snap my fingers and go to the grocery store, Rachel, and your eggs are back down to $2 a dozen. I think the silver lining in all of this is how do we, in our backyards, we've got chickens too in our backyard, how do we solve for something like this? And people are sort of looking around thinking, wow, well, maybe I could get a chicken in my backyard. And it's awesome. I agree with you.
Yeah, I think everyone who isn't a farmer right now wants to be.
You hear that? It's time to be a farmer, folks. So put on your overalls and get a chicken. It's almost like it would be funny if it wasn't so sad. These people have no idea what the average day-to-day experience is like for normal Americans. Do they honestly expect people to raise chickens? Like, where are you going to put the fucking chicken? In your apartment? Are you going to let it shit everywhere while you go to work? It's so dumb, and this solution is being recommended, especially at a time when bird flu is running rampant throughout the country, and while there's a blackout on health communications from the federal government, it makes my head almost explode because of the fucking stupidity of the people in charge. But on a serious note, just step back for a moment and think about all of the things that's happening right now. Aside from the imposition of tariffs on allies, Donald Trump is deregulating at a fast pace. He's cutting even more revenue to the federal government through tax cuts for the rich. He's imposing austerity on working class people. And it's gotten so bad that economists are starting to worry about all of this leading to a fucking recession. And the Atlanta Fed is just straight up predicting one at this point. And as Saikat Chakrabarti points out, combine this with gutting the federal government, cutting Medicaid, disabling Social Security by firing half its workforce, destroying manufacturing, and mass deportations. And I think we're looking at something well beyond the Great Recession and approaching the Great Depression. On top of this, Elon and Trump are against printing money, so I don't see us doing the kind of stimulus needed to get out of it. And as this Twitter user put it, if I wanted to crash the economy, I think I'd put on indiscriminate tariffs, push cheap labor out of our country, slash public jobs, cut public spending, promote an alternative to the dollar, and incentivize every global ally look to partner with China. Exactly. We're not even just talking about gross incompetence here. It's almost like he's trying to crash the economy, which sounds absurd. But if you realize that there's a lot that could be gained from him and rich oligarchs if the economy crashes, then it kind of makes sense. Saikat argues, it really is confusing why Trump would want to intentionally massively shrink the U.S. economy. None of this is due to external circumstances. He is manufacturing a recession. But it makes sense when you realize his goal is to create something like Russia, where the economy is run by a few oligarchs loyal to him. Creating that state is hard in a large, dynamic, powerful economy with too many actors who can oppose him. So he's accelerating, concentrating money and power into the hands of his loyalists while he crashes the rest out. So it's plausible that he might literally be trying to crash the economy to consolidate power. And when you think about it in that context and the ulterior motives that he might have as an oligarch himself, it makes sense in that context. But Crystal Ball responded to Saikat's theory and added some additional thoughts about Elon Musk and his role in this and how he might benefit from an economic crash.
I would say that at this point, until proven otherwise, the primary actor in the government and in the economy is actually Elon. So I think it makes sense to think in terms of Elon's incentives here and what he may actually want to accomplish. And if you think back at the last economic crashes, both in COVID and in the 2008 financial crash, while initially everyone suffered, including the rich, out of both, the rich were able to buy up assets on the cheap and emerged even wealthier and more powerful than before. So in 2008, not only did they get their own custom bailout, but they were able to buy up housing stock at absurdly low prices. The rich got richer than ever, inequality skyrocketed, and the big banks got bigger than ever. Same deal with the COVID era recession. So while, again, everyone suffered initially, there was a huge bailout package, which, yes, did benefit ordinary people. But if you look at who came out really on top after COVID, after all was said and done, you could see people like Elon Musk, people like Jeff Bezos, people like Mark Zuckerberg getting far wealthier. Their net worths, which were already very high, skyrocketed beyond anyone's wildest dreams. So are they thinking that another economic crash would once again inure to their benefit? Here's the other piece that's worth thinking about as well. Crash and crisis leads to governments and authoritarian leaders claiming more power for themselves. They can use the crisis and the emergency as a justification for taking on extraordinary powers and for taking extraordinary measures, again, measures that can be custom fit to primarily benefit oligarchs like Elon Musk. What's more, in both cases, the economic crash in 2008 and the COVID crash both helped to facilitate the rise of fascist governments. So in 2016, obviously Trump 1.0, and now here we are back again, Trump 2.0. Obviously, that is an aim that Elon and Trump would both themselves support. So I don't know, guys. Well, we're running around here going, like, what are they thinking with these tariffs while they're slashing government spending? Don't they know that this is going to cause a massive contraction? Can't they see the stock market crashing? Can't they understand how this is going to be devastating for the economy? Maybe they do understand, and maybe that's kind of the point.
And that's a really scary thought, but it makes perfect sense. A crisis can easily be used as a justification to concentrate even more power and restrict even more civil liberties. For example, in response to the anti-genocide protests on college campuses, Trump just announced that all federal funding will stop for any college, school, or university that allows illegal protests. These are not illegal protests, by the way. Agitators will be imprisoned or permanently sent back to the country from which they came. American students will be permanently expelled or, depending on the crime, arrested. No masks. Thank you for your attention to this matter. In other words, no free speech for people who oppose their tuition money or tax dollars supporting a foreign country doing a genocide. That is just straight up unconstitutional, but I take it that all of the free speech absolutists aren't going to have shit to say about that. But to be fair, Democratic governors were also pretty ruthless to these protesters, albeit to a lesser extent than what Trump is proposing. But I mean, just for a second, imagine a situation where the cost of living surges. Not hard to imagine, but if that happens, then poverty may spike. If the Social Security checks start to get delayed, and people start to get really pissed off, that could trigger a response from the public where they take to the streets and protest. That right there could give Trump the opportunity to show a force of strength by crushing them, thus making him even more powerful. And I don't think it's unreasonable to consider that this is something that he wants, because it's not like they're oblivious to how unpopular these things that they're doing are. Tesla sales are down, their shares have dropped since Trump took office, and Elon Musk's approval rating is also tanking, so his toxicity is affecting his company's brands. So he wouldn't be doing all of these things that are unpopular if he didn't think there was a massive upside one day, like there was with COVID. But aside from Elon Musk, America's honeymoon with Donald Trump is also officially over, since his approval rating is now in the red. And it's probably only going to get worse from here, but it's starting to actually fall out from under him, as Harry Anton of CNN explains.
The word here that I would use to describe Trump is awful. In fact, the only person who does worse than Trump does right now with a +1 net approval rating is himself back in 2017 when he was at -8. So he's doing better than he was.
I was going to say, you could spin it another way. He's making gains.
He's making gains, but he's doing worse than everybody else. The average president at this point, get this, plus 27 points on their net approval rating. Donald Trump is doing historically awful. The only person he beats is, again, himself from term number 1.
How about on the issue that, one, he says he was most elected to fix, and he said he would do it on day one, which would be the economy.
On the economy, well, he beat himself on overall, but on the economy, he can't even beat himself. Again, this is historically the worst going back in polling at this point in a presidency, the net approval rating on the economy. He's right now at -4 points. In term number 1, he was at +8 points. Historically, the average is +15 points. He is doing nearly 20 points worse than the average president when it comes to the economy on net approval rating. He is historically doing awful, awful, awful. Weak. And on the issue on which he was elected to, of course, fix, he is doing historically awful. This is not good. If this number holds, you can guarantee his overall approval rating will go down, and it could take his entire presidency with him.
And this also now can change very quickly because of tariffs. I mean, you have a lot of mixed reaction coming in from especially amongst Republicans on what these tariffs are really going to mean. I mean, can these tariffs help the president?
I don't think they're going to help the president, at least in the near term. And the reason why is simply put, look at the opposition. Americans oppose tariffs on Canada. Look at this. You got nearly 2/3 of the country opposing it on Canada, 64%. How about on Mexico? Nearly 3/5 of the country at 59%. We're already dealing with a president who, what we're having is the economy bringing him down. These tariffs, in my mind, will only bring him down further. Again, historically awful on the economy at this point, and the tariffs, I think, will only lead to further deterioration.
Yeah, so up until this point, he's enjoyed a net positive approval rating, but the more unpopular things that he does, the more that's going to continue to trend downward. But I just don't think that he actually cares. Like, Trump wants to be popular, but there are other things that he cares about more than popularity. You know, he's not up for re-election, so he doesn't have to worry about this hurting his chances, assuming he doesn't want to run for re-election and violate the 22nd Amendment. But, like, if he makes out like a bandit and leaves the White House richer than ever, it's all going to be worthwhile to him in the end. It doesn't matter if the rest of the country hates him or suffers greatly for the things that he's doing, so long as him and his oligarch friends profit heavily off of all of these things, that's going to be worthwhile to him. So buckle up, Americans, because things are going to get really ugly fast. And if you know somebody that voted for this asshole, don't be shy. Go ahead and remind them that they imposed all of this chaos on the rest of us. See, they weren't afraid to blame Biden for literally every single fucking thing that went wrong in the country, even if it didn't make sense. So be sure to remind them that all of this unnecessary pain and suffering is being inflicted on all of us because of what they did.
Yeah, it stands to reason. I don't know. I think that's what he's trying to do. If he's not, we're still going to have a crashed economy. If he's not doing this on purpose, we're still going to have it, you know, an economy in the tank. But, you know, the thing of it is that he's not just playing with his own money here. He's got all the wealthy in this country, you know, on pins and needles. Trump's approval rating, you know, is lower and lower all the time. Okay, he knows this. And the policies that he's implementing are the most unpopular by far. And it's all, these things are all designed to hurt and cripple the economy. And so you have to wonder, well, if he's being that strategic about attacking the economy with these things, then obviously he must be doing this on purpose. Otherwise, if he was just incompetent, he'd be making decisions at random that he wouldn't even think through, and nothing would make sense. Why is he doing this? And then all of a sudden the economy collapses, and it's because of his own stupidity. But no, he's being strategic about where he's making his attacks here, you know, in industries and jobs and stuff like that. You know, he's doing deliberately striking different things here. You know, basically the how do they call that? You know, the primary beams that hold up the floor. You know, he's deliberately knocking those out so the whole thing will collapse. Okay, he's not just going in there with a bulldozer. No, he's doing strategic hits in the economy, or in the government system, to, you know, make things fall apart. And you know, we're going to see our economy crash, and we'll probably slip into the worst recession, depression that we've seen in a long time. You know, I got to say this for Republicans, they're consistent, because as I see it, 4 of the 5 biggest recessions, depressions that this country had in the last century, okay, all happened under Republican presidencies. Think about that for a minute, okay? In 1929, Hoover was the president. Okay, the Great Depression. And then, you know, we go into the 1980s. We had the Reagan and Bush Sr. as the presidents at that time, from the 1980s into the early 90s. Okay, and we had bad economic times there. And then Trump comes in the late 2010s, and you know, he crippled the economy in his first presidency, and he's going to do it again in his second presidency. The only recession that we had that happened under a Democrat was under Jimmy Carter, okay? But all the other times in this country where we had bad economic times was under Republicans. When Democrats got elected, after they served their terms, they were the ones that had to restart, fix the economy, you know, get it back going again. And as soon as they did, a Republican would come in there and undo all of that. Okay, undo everything. So, you know, like I said, for the past 100 years, our economy has been up and down, up and down, up and down. I'm getting tired of this roller coaster. I want to see us stay up and remain up and stop coming down, which means Republicans, you need to stay the fuck out of the White House. When times are good, that's when you don't change things, okay? Whoever told you when something's working, fix it, okay? Stupid, stupid, stupid. You don't fix anything if it's working. Christ. You know, what do you people, you go buy a brand new car and when you bring it home, you pop the hood and you start pulling shit out of the motor? I mean, is that what you guys do? Because that's what you're doing when you get your hands into the government. You know, and I just feel like it's crazy. You know, and some of these idiots, some of these MAGA voting nuts who lost their government jobs, you know, they lost their pensions, they lost access to their health care, and they ruined their financial stability. But when you hear them talk, it's like, well, we own the libs. It's like, oh, really? So all that shit you lost is okay because you won up the Democrats. You see how insane these people act? I mean, how they think? I mean, come on. A cult mentality? That, my friends, is a cult mentality. When they would hurt themselves just to get a victory. They'd shoot themselves in the foot just to get a victory. They'd cut off an arm just to get a victory. You know, these people don't realize what they've done when they voted for Trump. They still don't realize it yet, okay? Things are just beginning right now. The tariffs started yesterday, okay? Canada is saying, you know, hey, you retaliate with more on us, we'll retaliate back. We'll take this fucking thing to the nth degree, okay? Which only means that more people on both sides of the border are going to be hurting financially, tariff for tariff, okay? So, you know, it would be best all the way around if they just say, okay, we're not doing business with the United States, period. Everything stops, okay? We're not buying your shit, and of course, you're not going to buy ours, so we're gonna build a fucking no economic zone, okay? That's it. We're not going to trade with you. We're not going to buy anything for you. That's it. The end. That would be the best way for Canada to deal with the United States. Just shut everything down. No more trade, period. That's it. You guys are on your own. Just cut us loose, you know? And the same thing with England and all the other countries out across the ocean. No more buying American stuff, period. Goodbye. That's it, okay? That's what they should do. You know, really make it known. I mean, and if they want to, they could put sanctions. You know, put sanctions on the United States. Okay. If they really want to take it to that point, okay. And I say that's, you know, they have every right to do it. And you know, yeah, it would be a bitch if they did, but you know, don't blame me, blame Trump. Okay. He's the reason it happens. Anything bad that happens in this country now, it's on him, okay? He no longer has the luxury to point a finger at somebody else and say, he created this and I'm going to fix it. No, Trump created this and Trump doesn't want to fix it, okay? He's created this mess and he's not going to fix it. Instead, he's giving you all this pie in the sky shit about, oh, well, it's going to be tough at first, but better days will come. Really? He doesn't act like a person that has a plan. Okay? He never gave two shits or two thoughts to a fucking healthcare plan for this country. He's got, concepts of plans. The man doesn't have a plan to make things better for you and me, okay? He's only thinking about one side of this country, and that's the super wealthy. He's trying to make it nice for them, okay? What comes of it after that, for us, is anybody's guess, okay? But it's not going to be nice. And he'll be dead and buried. Okay, and we'll still be suffering financially after all the shit he's done. Okay, that's what I can promise you. My prediction holds more water than what he was telling you just yesterday about. Oh well, things will get better. You know, have to go through the rough parts first. You know, that's the same thing Elon Musk was saying. Okay, but it's all just talk. It's all talk, words. You know, doesn't mean a goddamn thing. It's what is it that Lord Farquaad said? You know, some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. That's Trump. That's basically what Trump's saying, okay? So, anyway, let's go to a commercial break, and we'll come back with the next video.
I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Roxy Sugar, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you, original.
I feel love, so I believe in you when you said you had love. It's just a matter of time. I can select some more.
He was the first president elected with the help of a hostile foreign power. That's not a hoax. It's the conclusion of the Republican-led Senate Intelligence Committee and every national security agency. And what did the Russians get helping elect Trump in 2016? Turns out they got a lot. For decades, the greatest adversary of the Soviet Union and Vladimir Putin's Russia was the Republican Party. Now the Republican Party is the heart of pro-Putin movement in American politics. That's why Donald Trump nominated Tulsi Gabbard, Moscow's sweetheart, for a critical national intelligence position. That's why he loves J.D. Vance's vicious attacks on Ukrainian freedom fighters. What happened to Republicans standing for freedom? Tens of thousands of Americans died fighting a European dictator. Now, an American president embraces a dictator at war with freedom. When Donald Trump was inaugurated, remember who else was celebrating? Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump together again.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it.
It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
So the next video is from Kyle Kulinski, and he's talking about Governor Tim Walz. He's come out and said he's considering running for president in 2028. And he's been saying some things that's really got Kyle excited. And so let's go to that video here, and then we'll talk about that on the other side.
Oh, welcome to the show. We are jam-packed today, as you're about to see. So in just a second, Tim Walz emerges from hiding, and he is no longer playing around. He is no longer playing around. He's going straight for the jugular of the right. We'll talk about that. We also have Trump taking a huge loss in federal court. And actually, it's not just him. There's another separate case where Doge has taken another huge loss. So we'll talk about that. Then we'll get to Bill Maher drops his single worst idea of all time, which there's a lot of competition there because you all know Bill Maher is a bit of a mess. Then we'll get to Sam Seder versus Benny Johnson on Piers Morgan show. The Washington Post is collapsing as thousands of furious subscribers are leaving. And then we also have Slappy Steve Bannon attacks Bernie Sanders on Tim Dillon show. I have a lot to say about that. So if you want to see all that and more, do yourself a favor, subscribe below on YouTube. That helps out massively. It costs you nothing at all. It's a good way to get our videos like pumped out through the algorithm. Also, of course, a massive thank you to all of you who support this show on Patreon. It literally could not be done without you. Remember, guys, this is real independent media. So the way we fund this show is Patreon donations, tips on YouTube. We have Substack for Crystal Kyle and friends, and then the default YouTube ads, and that's it. So in other words, I've never had a conversation with an advertiser, not once in my life. I've never had a conversation with a corporation, never done an ad read on air, never talked to a billionaire or a government. In no way, shape, or form. This is true grassroots media. I'm very proud of what we built here, and you guys made that possible. So, again, thank you very much. All right, let's go ahead and dive into it because we have a lot of stuff to get to. Let's start with this one. So, Tim Walz has seemingly emerged from hiding, right? We haven't heard much from him since him and Kamala and their run. Well, he looks like he is no longer messing around. He's got no time for BSing, or as he's about to say here, tinkering around the edges. What you're about to see is his instincts in the wake of Trump taking the White House are exactly right, and he's saying things that many other Democrats are perhaps too afraid to say, or maybe they just don't agree with him, but they would be wrong if they don't agree with him. Listen to this. Let's start with this one.
I hear the thing out there is that when we get back, which we will, we'll fight. I'll tell you what people are going to expect is they're not going to expect us to tinkle around the edge with the ACA. They're going to expect universal health care.
Let's just pause on that real quick. He's like, all right, man, incrementalism. We tried it. Enough. Forget like more subsidies for the ACA. People are going to want universal health care. And what he's saying is they are right to want that. Because you know what? When you look at a situation like we're witnessing right now with a literal robber baron coup and the destruction of the administrative state and the regulatory state and the insanity of Donald Trump, when you look at that, that should be your reaction. Your reaction should be, I want the exact opposite of whatever this is, right? So in other words, all of these so-called moderate Democrats, in reality, they're just MAGA sellouts and MAGA collaborators. What are they talking about right now? Well, we just discussed it on the show yesterday. They are literally highlighting all of the areas where they think the other side has a point. Like, oh yeah, I think maybe we went too far on trans stuff and maybe on crime and on this and that. Why would you expect anybody to vote for you if your whole campaign is going to be built on this idea? The other side, they're right on quite a few things, and maybe we should discuss that and highlight that and focus on that. Why would anybody vote for you? Why would anybody support you when you say, my agenda is a watered-down version of their agenda? And so what Tim Walz is saying here is, look, man, enough with the incrementalism. We tried it. That helped pave the road to get us where we are now. People are going to want universal health care, and they're going to be correct to want universal health care. So we need politicians who represent that ideology and that philosophy. Look, he's exactly right. And one of the problems with the last election is that, unfortunately, it feels like Tim Walz was muzzled, right? I mean, he came out of the gates hot, man. Him and Kamala came out of the gates hot. Every time he did a cable news segment, it would go viral. I mean, he's the one who came up with the holy shit, these right-wingers are weird, bro. Yes, they're authoritarian, they're all the other negative things too, but they're fucking weird. right? He was bringing up the meme of J.D. Vance fucking couches at the rally speeches. And at that time, by the way, Kamala had like a 6-point lead in the polls. Then they got way more conservative. The Biden staffers hopped on board the Kamala train, and they were helping to steer the direction of the campaign. And then we got what? Kamala Harris going around with Liz Cheney, right? And telling Tim Walz, hey, shut up and go hide in the basement. Well, that was a problem. You needed Tim unleashed, Tim unchained. And then if he was able to do the thing that he does, they would have been way better off. Right? But what I'm happy to see here is it looks like Tim Walz understands that. It looks like he understands, hey man, maybe we should be more aggressive. Maybe we should be more clear. Maybe we should represent an opposite philosophy to MAGA. That's what this means when he says, enough with the incrementalism. Universal healthcare is what they're going to want, and they're right to want that. And you're seeing this sort of radicalization, for lack of a better term, happen with the Democratic base. That's why it's like over 60% of the Democratic base right now are going, I want you to be more oppositional to Trump. Right? So he's nailing it. Let's keep going.
If there's a lesson here, I always said this. We had a 1-vote majority in Minnesota when we moved clean energy. We moved reproductive rights. We moved a whole slew of progressive, very popular, including things around guns and gun safety, very popular things. We moved it with a 1-vote majority. And people ask, well, what do you call a 1-vote majority? A majority. Simple as that.
So let's talk about this, man. The reason I was so supportive of Tim Walz is not because, oh, he's a great campaigner, which he is. But the reason I was so supportive of him, I wouldn't care if he was the most boring man in America with zero charisma. The reason I was so supportive was because of his record. Best governor in the country by far. He genuinely believes in the philosophy of FDR, right? Or he's like the Bernie Sanders as a governor in Minnesota. But also, it wasn't even just his time as a governor. It's also his time in Congress. So let's remember what this man accomplished, again, with a 1-seat majority as a governor, but also his votes on the congressional record. He gave us universal free school meals, legal weed, carbon-free electricity by 2040. He gave tax rebates to the working class up to $1,300 as long as they make under $150,000 a year. He did 12 weeks paid family leave, 12 weeks paid sick leave. By the way, literally any one of these things would be a tremendous record in and of itself. Never mind doing all of them. You give me one Democratic politician at the national level, one Democratic president deliver for us 12 weeks paid family leave and 12 weeks paid sick leave. Are you fucking kidding me? They'll be building statues to that person. No doubt about it. He banned gay conversion therapy, knowing it's a scam. He did red flag laws for guns, so that if somebody comes out and says, I'm going to shoot up the school tomorrow, you are then legally allowed to take their guns. Universal background checks for guns, automatic voter registration, free public college if you make under $80,000 a year. He banned the PFAS, which are the forever chemicals which give people cancer. By the way, Trump just rolled back the federal regulations on those things. RFK, where you at, dog? I thought this was something you cared about. Now your daddy overlord boss does it, and you're like, nowhere to be found. I don't know what happened there. He did a $2.2 billion increase in K-12 school funding, sectoral bargaining for nursing home workers. He opposed the Wall Street bailouts in 2008 when he was in Congress, voted against outsourcing deals, codified Roe v. Wade, did right to repair, had 100% rating from Planned Parenthood, banned non-compete clauses, raised the minimum wage for small businesses, raised taxes on multinational corporations, protected gender-affirming care, banned medical providers from withholding care over debt, protected construction workers from wage theft, did a massive Minnesota infrastructure bill, opposed the Iraq War, fought the neocons twice when they tried to bomb Syria. He opposed sending weapons to Saudi Arabia, and I didn't even get to everything. This is what this man has done, right? So he has a great record, and again, I wouldn't care if he was the opposite of charismatic. I wouldn't care if he was the most boring man on the planet, but he also happens to be a genuinely good politician and a genuinely good campaigner. The only weak spot might be debates, as we saw. But honestly, I don't really care much because I think he's very well positioned relative to everybody else that we're talking about, right? Now, I would love it if Jon Stewart ran for president. We've been talking about that quite a bit. But, guys, guess what Tim Walz just came out and flirted with the other day? He did an interview the other day, and he came out and he said, yeah, I'm considering running in 2028 for president. Okay, Timbo, I see you. But look, you might say, okay, well, he's got the right policy agenda. He's saying the right things vis-a-vis incrementalism versus universal policies. All that is great. But does he fully and truly understand the threat that is MAGA, right? So does he know how to resist and how to fight? Well, here's another clip that came out maybe a week or so ago. This went kind of viral. Listen to what he had to say.
You see the nonsense that's being put forward on that. We're going to need your voice there, because I would just end with this. And we're seeing it in these town halls. That charismatic leader's not going to come there. You know, I see the pundits on TV. What's wrong with the Democratic Party? What's wrong is our country's being stole by fascists and Nazis, and we're trying to do all we can to try and do that. But
so he just said, I guess this was a private event. Somebody was recording it. He just said, what's wrong right now with the country is that it's being stolen by a bunch of, quote, fascists and Nazis. Talking about MAGA, talking about Trump, talking about Elon. Isn't it refreshing to hear somebody say it with their chest? That we had to sit there and watch Elon Musk do, what was it, 2, 3 Sig Heils, fascist salutes, going all in with the motion. And then we had to be gaslit for 2 weeks straight where they're, oh, well, actually, he's autistic. And actually, he was just sending his heart out to the crowd. And really, I mean, it had nothing to do with that. I don't even know what you're talking about, bro. We had to deal with being gaslit to our face over and over and over. And many Democrats said bupkis about this, said nothing. Just kept their mouths shut. Here's Tim Walz, comes in, elbow from the top rope. No, they're fascists and they're Nazis. That is the correct reaction. That is the correct reaction. In this moment, what I want to see from Democratic leaders is resist literally every single step of the way, because what the right is doing is untenable. And also stand for the opposite philosophy, stand for social democracy, right? And look, that's what he's offering. That's what he's offering. So I believe, was it him that floated this? I think he came out and said, what we should be doing is like, you know how they had daily COVID briefings during the beginning of COVID? What Democrats should be doing is like a daily Doge briefing or a daily MAGA briefing where you talk about, hey, here's all the harm that they did today. Here's all the horrible policies they implemented today. Here's all the illegal and unconstitutional spending cuts and freezes that they did today. I think Tim Walz should do that. I think Tim Walz should start going on cable news all the time. I think he should start going on independent media all the time. I think he should do the daily MAGA or Doge briefings, and he should be the one to be at the front of the line fighting these people. Because I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there ain't many people who are really leading that charge. So, you know, we've had some good fighters, don't get me wrong. You have the AOCs and the Jasmine Crockett's and the Bernie Sanders who's doing an anti-oligarchy tour, but Hakeem Jeffries is a mess. He's wrong on the ideology. He's wrong on how to fight. He doesn't even try to fight effectively. Chuck Schumer, same thing. Don't get me started on him. It's fucking embarrassing. So many of these politicians, Alyssa Slotkin is given the response to Trump's State of the Union address, and she voted for 8 of Trump's cabinet picks. Like, what are we talking about here? So there is a lack of leadership. Tim Walz can and should provide that leadership. He can and should be the one to step up, be the one to lead, be the one to fight, be the one to provide the ideological framework that makes all the other Democrats follow along, right? That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see. And this guy is, he didn't get a fair shake the first time around. And then don't even get me started on the right-wing hacks and liars and frauds who basically tarnish this man over fucking nothing, right? Like Joe Rogan. Oh, he's just a brazen pathological liar. You support Donald Trump, bitch. Oh, Tim Walz is a pathological liar because he said he was in China for the Tiananmen Square thing and he was like there a week earlier or a week after. And you oh, that's the worst lie I've ever heard. Or, oh, he made the higher rank in the military when technically he did, but he didn't fill out the paperwork and he stepped away. So technically he actually didn't hit it, but he kind of did. Oh, biggest liar in the world. Trump told over 30,000 lies in his first fucking term alone. He lied to Joe Rogan's face repeatedly, and Rogan sat there and took it. Okay, so I don't want to hear from the right-wing hacks who, you know, they're going to smear whoever the fuck comes out as a Democratic leader. But what we need in a Democratic leader is somebody who's going to keep plowing ahead like a bull in a china shop. And Tim Walz might be that. I mean, these clips right here, if they're any indication of what this guy's capable of. And the other thing is, for the love of God, at all costs, protect Tim Walz in the sense that don't allow the MAGA sellouts and collaborators around him. Don't allow the Biden world people or the Bill Clinton world people, because they're going to whisper in his ear and tell him all the worst fucking things in the world. They're going to say, Tim, don't run on 12 weeks paid family leave and sick leave. That's too radical. That's too extreme. Americans won't like that. So it's going to be a wrestling match. It's going to be a battle to try to make sure, if this guy decides to come out and be the leader, that you surround him with people who are not total fucking idiots and swamp creatures who will make him a worse candidate. Again, the problem with the Kamala campaign was they largely hid Tim Walz. That was a problem in and of itself. But it's going to be a whole nother beast if he starts leading and then you have others getting around. Oh no, don't do that. We need to embrace the era of neoliberalism again. You have to, here's the 6 issues where you should be agreeing with MAGA. It's not the fucking time for that. He needs new, young, talented, intelligent strategists, not all the fucking parasites who have destroyed the Democratic Party multiple times over. They should be nowhere near Tim Walz. So anyway, definitely some good news that he's considering running in 2028, and I'm glad that he's already saying things that are true. Hey, y'all.
Yeah, Nazis and fascists, okay? I agree. Call them as you see them. You know, Tim, you know, we really need to stop pussyfooting around, as they say, with politics here, the Democrats, okay? They need to stop that because they're always trying to cast out this big fucking net to grab all the demographics, everybody they can get into their family, into the Democrat Party. It doesn't work because what you're doing is you're watering down, you know, the Democrat Party. When you do that, you're not getting the best of the best. You're getting a little bit of this, a little bit of that, okay? And you're bringing in all these people who are trying to pull you closer to the center, all right? Because you're trying to grab Republicans in there. And, you know, if you lose your base in the process of doing that, then you're not gaining, you're losing, okay? You're not gaining anything. You're not gaining any ground. And that's what Democrats have been doing here, is they're trying to appease as many people as they can to get elected. Well, that's not how Democrats used to get elected in the past, okay? They would run on a progressive, you know, Democrat platform. And it would be, you know, completely opposite of the other side, the Republican side. And that's how they would win. Because we always knew there's more Democrats in this country than there are Republicans. And there's no need to have to cater to the Republicans. Okay? If you stick to your base and you stick to those things that matter most to the Democrats, you're going to win your elections. But if you try and, we don't get Liz Cheney into the mix, you know, and walk around with her, okay, that sends the wrong message, okay? Democrats don't like that. You know, if you're going to do stuff like that, by trying to bring, you know, somebody that's not really well liked from the Republican side and travel around the country with them, you're giving the wrong message, okay? That was probably one of the reasons why Kamala lost a little bit of support towards the end, was because of the fact that she, you know, dragged in Liz Cheney. And I don't know why she did that. I certainly didn't like the idea of her doing that at the time. I remember I said that was why. You know, you got Tim Walz. Why do you need Liz Cheney? I mean, it was sort of like she kicked him to the curb and, you know, and started running her campaign through Liz Cheney. And I'm thinking, oh, that's not a nice thing to do. I mean, but you know, Tim Walz is really, what he's trying to say, you know, is we have to stop, you know, taking little steps closer to the right, okay? If you're going to be Democrat, then you must act Democrat. You must have Democrat policies that need to be done. People want universal health care. They don't want something less than that, okay? They want that, universal health care. And he's right, okay? The only reason why we got less than that was because we let the Republicans hold us over the fire, and Obama kept giving in until what we ended up with was, you know, anything that he intended to have passed, okay? It was largely a disappointment for the Democrats that we ended up with the ACA, but, you know, it worked a little bit better than what people had, but it wasn't what we wanted, okay? We wanted universal health care, and Tim Walz knows that. okay? But in order to get that, you got to cater to your base. You got to get the Democrats motivated. And that means only the Democrats. Stop talking to the other side. They don't want to hear you. They don't want to help you. And they're not there for you. They're just not going to vote for you. No matter what, you could offer them free money and they still won't vote for you. Okay? They're just not going to do it. Because it's a cult mentality. And when they've entrenched themselves in that sort of mindset, then you're wasting your energy, you're wasting your breath trying to cast a net over there to try to grab some of those people into the Democrat side. Forget it. Don't even waste your time. You don't need them. Okay? You know, whenever, if you got a good policy, they'll benefit from it, whether they agreed with you or not. They'll get benefit from it, and they won't say any. They won't even tell you thank you. Okay? But they'll be happy they got it. You know, and that's what you do with somebody like that is, you know, you have to force feed them the medicine they don't want, but once they get it, they're happy they got it. They just ain't going to say thank you for it, you know. You know, but that's why I'm saying you know, you have to have a Democrat that runs for president who's only going to talk to the Democrats. Okay, period. That means anyone who's there, you know, we're not listening to abortion bans or anything like that. That's not going to be in our fucking discussion, okay? We're going to be talking about economic policies, job creation, helping out mothers, single mothers, and helping out people who need jobs, helping out the veterans. We're going to focus on that. Whatever the other side is arguing against, that's them, okay? And we know whatever they say is not popular. It's only going to be popular with the cult over there. But the rest of us are going to deal with reality. And that means we're going to talk on these issues that we know Americans largely approve of. And that's what we need. Because look, even now, even the Republicans now, after they voted for Trump, are still bitching about the same things that were going on when Biden was president, which means their problems haven't been solved. They're still bitching. So Trump has done nothing for these people. And like I said, a lot of them have already been impacted by what Trump has done, and they won't come out and say anything about it. At least some of them won't. Others have, but, you know, a lot of these stubborn-ass idiots are just going to sit there and take it on the chin and not say a fucking word, you know, because they don't want to have to eat their words about owning the libs, okay? See, they won, but they didn't win what they thought they won, okay? But I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, if Tim does run, let's just say, hypothetically, he decides he's going to run and he does, I wouldn't be surprised if the DNC screwed up that campaign, too. They'll try and snatch defeat from the jaws of victory like they did the two other times, okay? So I'm just saying, you know, will the Democrat Party smarten up and actually go all the way, you know, and do exactly what the majority of this country wants, okay, and talk the fucking policies of liberals here, what we need, and stay focused on real issues and not made up shit, you know, about people eating cats and dogs, okay? Are we going to do that? Are we going to be able to get the press to stay away from all these hogwash stories just so they can get ratings, okay? Because there's a lot we got to put under control if we're going to have an honest-to-goodness campaign for president. We can't allow the media to run wild out there like they did the last time, okay, and picking up all this bullshit monotony, okay, or, you know what I'm saying, we have to have something better here going in this country during another presidential campaign, because frankly the last one was a fucking joke. It really was. It was silly. The press wasn't really doing its job as it should have been, and the people were showing up at rallies and stuff listening to hogwash, okay, from the right wing. And, you know, the Democrats put on a good show. They talked a good game. But, you know, what the hell really come of it? You know, they got everybody built up, and then, you know, they lost. Okay? And, you know, it just seems like, you know, you don't lose because you tried hard. You lose because you didn't do something right. And I think, like I said, one of the things that they didn't do right was by introducing Liz Cheney into the campaign, okay? She's not as liked as people want to believe, okay? They remember what she was, okay? She supported almost all the things that Trump stood for, okay? It was only after January 6th did she say shit against him about that. But everything else he did before that was fine. You know, abortion bans and all that shit. She's almost as pure MAGA as you can get, okay? And I won't ever forget that about her, but, you know, that's the thing, is that that was the line that he crossed that she couldn't stand. Everything else he did was fine. All those other lines, who cares, right? But that one line, that was it. No, she saw an opportunity to elevate herself over Trump's mistake. Okay? That's what she did. And like I said, Kamala latching on to her really kind of irritated a lot of Democrats. And I think with that coupled with, you know, the matters over in Israel, you know, hurt the Democrats in the end. They weren't really paying attention to that, I don't think. And, you know, they thought Kamala's message alone would be enough, but it wasn't, because you got the other side, you know, talking trash and, you know, saying all the things that they want to hear, and depressing the Democrats, and the Democrats not seeing a possibility of any change. You know, I guess some of them, like 8 million Democrats didn't vote in that last election, and those are the ones who voted for Biden. So obviously, you know, the Democrats, I hope they learn from that. I really do, because they can't make that same mistake again. You know, we can't afford to have another, you know, Republican as a president. If Trump allows another president election to happen, that's, you know, that's another thing there too. He's looking to either find a way to extend into another term after this one, or, you know, people are saying he'll do something to stop an election from happening, you know, depending on what he does with this Project 2025 thing. He might try to go into the Constitution and change that all around. Who knows? You know, but these midterms are going to be extremely interesting, okay? And it's going to really decide, you know, once and for all, just how into Trump this country is, okay? So we're, you know, this isn't going to be like, you know, a whole country voting for one person. It's going to be individual states, you know, having to figure out who they want, okay? And the result of that will show whether we're going to lean more to the right or we're going to lean more to the left after Trump, here after these first couple of years of Trump, okay? So whatever he's saying right now, we already know the stock market went down significantly, over 1,200 points, okay, in the last couple of days. That's a big dip there, okay? So we know that there's a lot of nervousness and a lot of they're not certain with him. They're not gambling on him either. So it's just people just don't feel like their money there is going to be safe with him. That right there, I mean, hey, if there's any indication that things are going to change quickly, it's going to be from how people are handling their money on Wall Street, okay? They'll look at that before they'll look at the people out on the streets that are being impacted by Trump's executive orders. But the media will always look at the stock market as the thermostat, if you will, of the air, okay? Whether the stocks go up or come down depends on how they're going to report the news. They very seldom do they ever go out to the public and hit the streets and find out how they're being impacted with that. So that's how we're going to know what's going to happen. And if this continues on way up to the midterms, then the Republicans are going to be losing seats all over the place here, you know, then we'll have control over the houses, hopefully. But, you know, Democrats, you're going to have to use the power that's given to you. If you don't use it, it's for nothing, you know. So, anyway, that's it for today. Hope everybody has a great rest of the week. Subscribe, comment, and share. And keep your ears open for any health-related issues out there. And treat each other with respect, and be a community that's helping each other out. Okay, you can't go wrong by being kind to your neighbors, and just be there. In emergencies, and there'll be many. So it's good to have people around you who can help, and that you can help others. So I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.